preoccupying with more death, destruction of property and persons. We observing the redefining of global politics. We also engaging in a new wave of arms race in the war for European, Eastern, Chinese, as well as African nations, as nations are asking themselves how they would defend themselves in the case they were to be invaded by a mighty nation like Russia. If time permits, we're going to be looking at the situation of our teachers in private schools in Cameroon. How well or very badly are they being treated? We are discussing these two topics this evening with the panelists who are in the house. So already Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa is our permanent consultant. He's in the house. Good evening and welcome, Apostle.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening, Cameroonians. Welcome to Prime Hour today. We're discussing world politics, Ukraine, Russia, and also the situation of our teachers in the country, which has been on the front line of most newspapers across the country, and the lips of every people and student complaining about neglect of the teachers that has equally affected their studies in school. My daughter is a victim. She's not been in school for some days, not because there are no teachers there to teach them. Stay tuned as we bring you very vital information.
Okay. Also with us is Mr. Souleiman, all the way from Kumba, chief town of Meme Division, is going to be also expressing what he thinks about what is happening between Russia and Ukraine. Good evening and welcome.
Yeah, greetings to our listeners, greetings to my co-panelists. We have gathered again at the studio of Media Prime on Prime Hour, and to just stay put, listen to us as we digest.
Ndiwums Emmanuel is also in the studio with us. He's key member of our Cameroon's civil society. We're glad to have you.
Mr. Leo, thank you once more for the confidence. It's always a pleasure to be on your platform. You know, with Prime Hour, we bring the world closer to your door. And with Prime Hour, we make you closer to the heavens of information. That is why we always respect the call each time we are called over to be here. And since you said if time permits, we'll be talking about teachers.
If we cannot discuss that today, tomorrow.
There's no problem.
Focus on it, yeah.
I wanted to greet a few teachers.
Okay.
I wanted to greet my academic mentor who is watching right from Fundong, Honorable Ambe, and all my colleagues back here in Douala, especially Madame Kum Marie Harriet, who is a fan to your program. Of course, despite the fact that she's a francophone, she's the one who often reminds me that this is what happened at Prime yesterday. So it's just normal that we use this opportunity to say hi to her.
Okay, we are also expecting the arrival into our studios of Dr. John Ako. He should be on his way here. We are starting with you, Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa. We are in the 21st century. We are in 2021, and we know that the devastating effects of World War I and II. We saw what happened in Iraq when there was that American invasion. We saw what happened in Libya with the NATO invasion led by France and the US. Can we understand how in 2022 we should be receiving such videos, sounds, and images from Europe?
Yes, Mr. Leo, the issue of Russia-Ukraine is not something that started today. It's an age-long challenge that has been eaten deep into the very fabrics of the Russian people. Anybody who wants to judge what is happening right now based on the immediate cause will not be able to get the actual picture of what is happening right now. History has taught us to understand that sometimes we need to trace problems from their roots. You cannot just go and begin to see fruits and complain about the fruits. Many people are complaining about the fruits of what is happening right now, but the seed was planted several years ago. Russia used to be, Ukraine should be a nation called the Ukrainian Republic, Republic of Ukraine. in 1917. Now, a group of Russians rose up, led by Stalin, Joseph Stalin, in 1917, and confronted this country called Ukraine, fought against it under the Bolshevik Revolution. After conquering them, they captured Ukraine and brought it under the USSR. That nation has been there, and Stalin enacted very draconian policies against this nation, Ukraine. The first was that they did agricultural policy. They seized food from all Ukrainians, thereby causing Ukrainians to die at least 8 persons an hour. The second policy that was enacted was that of deportation. Most of the Ukrainians were deported in other countries. So Ukraine became a subset under the USSR. That grudge has been there for many years, and then in 1991, a referendum was conducted. 92% of Ukrainians voted for freedom. Vladimir Putin is a reincarnation of Stalin. There is a buried grudge that has been there for several years. If there is any country in the world that Ukraine, Putin does not consider an independent country, it should be Ukraine. So Ukraine is an independent country in the mind of everybody else except in the mind of Vladimir Putin. We keep saying that because of NATO. First and foremost, Zelensky has not officially joined NATO. He cannot live on announcement, how do I put it, speculations, and then just go and attack
a nation.
You will understand that something deeper than that NATO stuff was underneath all these operations, because he was still intending to join NATO. At least Putin was supposed to have waited for some time to see them join NATO before he launches his attack. But he did not even want to wait for them to join NATO. He launched the attack. Why? Because he was looking for a platform to invade Ukraine based on a buried grudge after many years. You look at it critically, the other presidents of Ukraine saw this thing and avoided it. They did not even mention it. They didn't even come up with any idea of joining NATO. So when this guy came and said that he wants to join NATO, Russia just took advantage of that statement and then invaded Ukraine as a result of their buried grudges over so many years.
So it is something that has been
it's been there
centuries,
since. This one is just like we say the killing of Archduke Franz Ferdinand by a Serbian radical known as Gavrilo Princip that caused the First World War. Was that immediate cause? But there are remote causes on the ground. These countries have been in division for many years and have been allied for many years. That is what the challenge is. So what happened right now was that bam, immediately he proposed that he's going to join NATO. He has not even joined. He launched the attack. Now that he has announced that he wants to withdraw from NATO, why is that? Why is it that the forces of Russia are not leaving the nation of Ukraine? It's to let you understand that what people are speculating as being the challenge that NATO is coming to plan nuclear weapons in Ukraine, which is very close to Russia, is a challenge. That is a very surface analysis and very casual analysis as far as this thing is concerned. Anybody who does not understand the Bolshevik Revolution of 1917, led by Joseph Stalin, will not be able to understand what is happening in this particular crisis right now. So when we are giving analysis, we should be able to understand that there are immediate causes that can cause a spark, but those things have been creeping underground for many years. To Vladimir Putin in his head, Ukraine is not a nation.
Okay, can we understand what is happening now?
Let's go back to history, as the apostle said. You know, during the Bolshevik Revolution, Tsar Nicholas II was overthrown by the Bolsheviks and the Mensheviks. They overthrew Tsar Nicholas II because he was a feudal lord, controlled everything. So he was overthrown by Joseph Stalin. The Bolsheviks, they overthrew them. And when they overthrew them, Stalin took control. Look, Stalin was a dictator, a brute. Stalin killed people more than what Hitler did. But history did not record it. And after Stalin, Khrushchev came. Nikita Khrushchev came. Nikita Khrushchev then came and he was in control. After Nikita Khrushchev, who came? Leonid Brezhnev. These are hardcore communists, conservative communists of the highest order. And Putin was groomed by these people. Putin was groomed by these people. If you talk of conservative communists, you talk people like Konstantin Chernenko, people like Yuri Andropov, people like Andrei Gromyko. Those are people who groomed Putin. Putin is a hardcore communist. He knows the American system, it works. He knows how NATO works. He knows them very, very well. Now, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev came and introduced Glasnost and Perestroika and destroyed the Soviet Union. The Union Soviet Socialist Republic went independent. All the 16 socialist countries went independent. And they started joining NATO. Now about 11 of them are in NATO. Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, they are all inside NATO. So this thing is eating Putin. Putin cannot understand how the Warsaw Pact will collapse like that. Instead of him attacking Mikhail Gorbachev, who introduced the thing, now he's attacking Crimea and Ukraine. Putin cannot understand how at his backyard, pro-Western leaders are ruling, are answerable to America and NATO, where they are just behind his backyard. So what he's trying to do in Ukraine is what he did in Crimea. That's exactly what he wants in Ukraine, to maintain, to put leaders who will be answerable to him. That's what he's trying to do. Let him put leaders who will be answerable to Putin, not to America or NATO. He did that in Crimea. He went through. That's exactly what he wants to do now in Ukraine. That is what. And after that, he will go to Belarus or Romania. That's his. He wants to bring back all those socialist countries that left the Warsaw Pact or the Soviet Union. That thing is eating him very, very well. So, I mean, now Putin is starting, he wants to make sure that he got allies at his backyard who are pro-Putin and not anti-Putin.
Yeah, but then if the campaign is to get your neighbors to be pro-Russian, are you not supposed to have engaged in diplomatic moves? How are you going to ask these guys now to join you by invasion?
Because he has seen that almost 11 nations have joined NATO.
Yeah, but
11 nations.
Yes,
like the apostle said.
Why not use diplomacy to get Ukraine towards Russia?
To him, he feels it will be very difficult for him. Yeah, he's going to be. It will be very difficult for him. Force is the ultimate means for him, because Putin believes he's a dictator. He believes in the use of force. He's a brute. And so now, since he has got Crimea, he said, come on, let me go next to Ukraine. Let me grab Ukraine too. After Ukraine, maybe I'll go to Romania, because that's the next country, or Belarus. That's his intention. But now, today, NATO foreign minister have said they are going to check all those things now, because that's his intention. They say they are going to make sure that Putin does not exceed again from Ukraine. They are going to make sure that
But you say he's a hardliner. Yeah, you've enumerated those early leaders, the Stalins and the host of others. They did this in those years. How do we explain that a leader in the 21st century wants to reincarnate and do a replay of what obtained in those years?
No, you know that, you know that, let me come, you know that the communist system does not believe in you know, when Karl Marx was propounding his theory of communism, where he did not envisage was that he never thought that the industrialized capitalist nation will leave their country and go and invest in other countries in the name of foreign multinational corporation and transnational corporation. And secondly, Karl Marx did not envisage that they are going to subsidize their poor. He feels that the proletariat one day will overthrow the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie. This way Karl Marx did not envisage. One, he never knew that the capitalist country will go out of their bandage to go and invest in other countries of multinational corporation and transnational and bring back the repatriated profits.
Okay. Yes. How do we understand what is happening in the 21st century?
No, the simple understanding of it, Mr. Leo, should be that Putin wants to rewrite history. The history that dictators in the past like Hitler did. And my fear is that if should the world sit back and watch Putin, he will go through. Even though I have a personal conviction that his legs will not carry him that far, because the whole world cannot be threatened by one Putin. It is true that I don't want to go back to the history that Apostle and Pastor Souleiman said a while ago. It is true that when we look at the events between Russia and NATO in 2010, Russia started spearheading this thing in 2010. When they were telling the NATO forces not to have anything common to do around her backyard, it was like already signaling to them that we were getting prepared. But if we were to talk about the 21st century, I would say that Putin has failed. Putin has failed woefully because you talked about diplomacy. of which we say we are in the 21st century, what would have pushed Putin not to start from where he shall end? Because where he ought to have started is where he shall end, on the table. Or he goes and he pays it with his hate. Because the whole world cannot be threatened by Putin. You went in because of rumors. I call it a war caused by rumors that NATO's forces were to be stationed in Ukraine, backed by the West and some European powers. Okay, you did not take any diplomatic act to contact the countries that are involved in the NATO deal. You sat, instead of diplomatically confronting them, you sat back and you were building weapons. At the time you thought that your home was well fortified with weapons, you just went with an attack. And what has surprised me and has shocked me a lot, Mr. Leo, is that we have scholars out there in Europe. We have scholars littered everywhere in the world backing Putin. As to say, that is, war has become a solution to some problems. It has also exposed some people whom we were believing in them to be peace crusaders, whom are today on their Facebook pages preaching and supporting Putin. We can understand that Putin had the fear that permitting maybe NATO forces to establish in Ukraine was a threat to him. We can understand that. But we cannot use that as a justification as to why Putin is doing what he has done. He has killed, he has destroyed, and he is ready to go more. The question now is the world going to watch him go further? I think Putin is undertaking a journey that he will not go right to the end. Because for those who are clapping for Putin today, I have doubts. I have some reservations that his legs will not carry him that far.
Okay, the war has suddenly killed coronavirus. Zelensky is fighting a war he knows nothing about. His allies are just two less bulldogs. Putin needs the access of the Black Sea. Mola Waka Ekwili is writing from Boya. Why do many persons think that Ukrainians don't know the reason behind this war? Like Mola is writing that Zelensky is fighting a war he knows nothing about. Are we saying that the history that you just raised, because even before the Bolsheviks that we are talking, we go even far behind 1840, they have had wars with Russia, Ukraine, Russia. Why do especially Africans think that the Ukrainians don't know why they're fighting?
Yeah, most often you get those statements from pro-Putin. Those who are pro-Putin within the African continent, some hiding within Europe and others in America, has made a lot of damaging statements. If you look at the USSR, the Soviet Union was constructed under wars and conquering, and meaning conquering. So those who have conquered territories long ago decided somehow in the 1970s to give us some of those territories. They lose those territories during the Cold War. And now I'm telling that, like some people said, that to Russia and Putin in particular, Gorbachev made a lot of errors in even allowing those territories to go. Because when you look at his idea, in 2014, I have told people, Putin attacked South Ossetia, attacked Georgia, and in 2008, we are saying so, in 2014, he attacked Crimea and even Ukraine itself, then cut off Crimea. It is 8 years again after Putin is coming. Those who think they have studied Russia, they will know that the Soviet Union was a war machinery throughout the world. And wars will not end. If leaders like Putin, before Putin, there have been others. Yes, I believe there was one Dmitry, the guy before Putin, who was used upon as a leaflet. I mean, a perishable leader, just for Putin to get back to sit and study coming in front again. The constitution permits him now to live right up to 2032, which means that in Putin's idea, all the territories that were given up by Mikhail Gorbachev, all those 15 states will say gain their independence from Russia. If Putin was the leader, it was a blunder from the leader at the time. Any leader that tends to come back to blame the decisions that his predecessors have made, I believe sincerely has nothing new to offer. And if he's having nothing new to offer, it will equally give me the belief that Putin's will not want to concord or to conclude with what Ndiwums has just said. I begin to see the end of the era of Putin within the horizon. And if you look at even presently in Kremlin, those who have not even maybe look at some images, you realize that Putin himself isn't afraid of his closest collaborators. He gives them that distance. When we look at the photo with President Emmanuel Macron, people thought it was a joke, but I watched Putin with his own Minister of Defense giving more than 30 meters away in a briefing within the presidential palace. It gives us an idea that a leader has built within himself a kingdom where he is far from the people, and that he takes decision to him to bring back the glorious days of the USSR. And like I asked today, if we don't know the history of Russia, those who are saying that they know it better and that Ukrainians don't even know anything, I believe you, who is an African, you cannot be telling the history of a people. And like you asked a very good question here. Has anybody reasoned out why Ukrainians are unable to mix up, to melange, to get closer to Moscow, and they prefer maybe to get closer to Brussels? Remember, within the height of the crisis, it is when Zelensky again has launched his campaign for membership within the European Union. Are we going by force? I asked people several times. China some time ago was cut off to the rest of the world. But today, what has China done? China has embraced the world. And when you look at the position of China and look at Russia, who is older than who in international politics, you will realize that the world has been so open to China that it is still USSR. I have used a lot of examples again. The union between West and East Germany gives us an idea that the world has gone to a level that we need at times to cut off some of those barriers, some of those walls, and link up with bridges. When you look at the position of Germany today, I believe when Germany talks, the whole European Union has to sit quiet. It is the economic powerhouse of Europe. Can Russia one day think of integrating the European Union? I mean, a gentleman move where Putin is. Can Russia decide to join the European Union? If Russia joins the European Union, if Russia tomorrow decide to join NATO, can we talk something else? Can we say the world has become the most peaceful place? If Russia is afraid of anti-missile attack, it gives us an idea equally that the Russian state is what I call a brutal regime. It is a brutal regime in the sense that to him, his neighbors should not live, only him. And when you look around, history has equally indicated that a lot of those 15 states that seceded from Russia, Ukraine remains the most economically stable and powerful, which means within the Kremlin ideas, within Moscow ideas, getting Ukraine and dividing or weakening it out like they have done, Lugansk, Donetsk, they are kind even presently. The president is still saying that Donetsk and Lugansk will remain autonomous state within Ukraine. What I was even happy again within the talking that they have been doing is saying that Lugansk and Donetsk should stay autonomous state, meaning they will be compared to places like Catalonia in Spain, where they have specificities of their own within the same union with Ukraine. But the Ukrainian president is saying this is not going to be possible, that Lugansk and Donetsk remains regions within the same country being governed by Kiev. This is the level at which we are. Telling us again that the war, what many Africans are still claiming, I see a lot of those that have attacked some of us on social media who criticized the death of Gaddafi yesterday as supporting that the artist, the boy who is acting movie on Hollywood, should be killed and taken off and Kiev given to Russia. And I begin to ask if Africans within themselves even have a way they are going. I told them, Lumumba has been killed. We remember the history and we know the killers. We condemned the act of Lumumba being killed. We condemn the killing of Thomas Sankara. We condemn the killing of Muammar Gaddafi. So today, if they kill Zelensky, will Africans celebrate? Of what assistance is this ping pong going back? Do you think the world president we have, many look at the West, I see Ukraine in front of Russia. I don't see Europe, I don't see America. No bomb has been laundered or hit any position in UK, in Britain or Germany. I see those who are being killed as a major nation attacking a minor nation. And we will not accept, because some nations are bigger than others, there is no aspect for survival of nations. Okay. We need to know that the history of Ukrainians can only be told by Ukrainians and not Africans. And nobody has a mandate, I continue to say it. Nobody has a mandate to take another person's life because somebody took the life of another yesterday.
Okay. Apostle Ambe Valentine Ngwa, in the position of Zelensky, at the time Putin said we were coming, do you weigh the support he had from his people to endorse what is facing today, and also judging from the support Putin is having from the people within his country? Are they, the Russians in their entirety, endorsing what Putin is doing compared with the support that Zelensky is having from his people?
Of course.
Okay.
The Russians are 100% behind Putin.
Okay.
Correct.
You see, we are following the event step after step. You know, Russia is part of SWIFT. SWIFT is what gives you the opportunity to use the dollar around the globe. It was the central bank governor of Russia that said, even if Russia is taken out of the SWIFT, conditions have been put in place to sustain Russia out of SWIFT. We have to understand that Russians are people who understand the manipulations of the capitalists.
Okay.
Russians have a buried grudge against the NATO because NATO has done a lot of atrocities on earth here and nobody has questioned them. It was that same NATO that attacked Iraq under suspicion that there are nuclear weapons there, only to kill Saddam Hussein, and found later on that there were no arms there. That same NATO.
No, NATO, it was not NATO. It was the U.S. created what they called coalition of the willing. It's not NATO.
Listen and listen very well. America is part of NATO. And NATO must not be official. Who attacked Gaddafi? It's France.
Yeah, but France. Yeah,
when we call
NATO went to Libya, but France opposed their going to America, to Iraq. Yes, it was a coalition of the willing.
It wasn't France that opposed. It was the UN Security Council that opposed America from going to Iraq. It was the UN Security Council that opposed America. George Bush violated the clauses of the UN Security Council and invaded Iraq. To tell you that those guys were in support, they kept quiet. Now that Russia has attacked Ukraine, why are they giving economic sanctions? Why did the rest of the parties in the UN Security Council not give America economic sanctions? Why did they not? Let us leave. We should not give analysis from a shallow point of view. We are telling you the gymnastics that goes on. France will never stand against America. America will not stand against France, because why? NATO is even more influential than United Nations.
Apostle, I really would not want us to. I want us to be very correct when we say it. The French president outrightly told America that we are not supporting this, and France stood against. Go and read it, please. France was never in favor of that. The U.S. had the full support of Tony Blair, the British Prime Minister at the time. France was not part of that, please. Yeah, it's very clear. France was no. I was just no. It's Apostle, please, yeah. No, yeah.
Anyway, I understand properly what Mr. Leo is trying to communicate. Let's not go into that. It will cause a lot of confusion here, because the politics of the world is very complicated.
Yes.
There was a time I said to Ivorians that Alassane Dramane Ouattara has changed the constitution for a third tenure. They insulted me. Later on, that was the result. We are not giving analysis from a shallow point of view. Let's talk what is available right now.
Yeah.
Russians are 100% behind. That's the question you asked me.
Yes.
They are 100% behind Putin. Because why? America and the rest of the countries influenced the splitting away of those 15 states under the USSR. They have that bitterness buried in them for many years. It's a time for recovery. That's the reason why you see Russia's extension even in Africa. They have launched against France in Central African Republic, and they are hitting France in Mali. If we say that one, they will say, okay, it is not because it's not on the social, it's not on media, it's not everywhere. Russia is on a mission. This very particular Putin, I say, is a reincarnation of Joseph Stalin. He's coming back to recover all Russia's losses. Zelensky, on his part, sat on an armchair without arms, knowing that he will gain support, because he knew very well that in case Russia confronts him, the rest of NATO will back him up. But unfortunately, NATO has left this particular Zelensky man like a man in between the devil and the deep blue sea. This is what occurred to David Dacko many years ago, when he was confronting France, thinking that China would defend him. When France came against him, China withdrew from behind and kept David Dacko in the middle of the sea. Zelensky is a victim of leaning on people who equally do not even have the interest in defending them. These NATO countries are countries who are so self-centered and greedy. My annoyance is that they have allowed this young president to go and confront, to allow his ego to drive him to challenge a nuclear power without having the backup. Why did he make a statement that NATO has kept us in the air? They are the ones who gingered him. He was speaking with confidence, knowing that when Russia comes, because he knows that Ukraine cannot face Russia. Where did he get his bonus? A child that stands in the street and shout, somebody in the bush playing the drum. He knew that those who were playing the drum in the background will come out when there is a challenge. On his greatest surprise, the people who were playing the drums in the bush abandoned him to the fight in the streets.
Okay.
So let us be very, very careful in analyzing this particular Ukraine stuff, because the NATO stuff that he was counting on, they have kept him in the air.
Yes, you are itchy to come in here.
Yeah, what I was saying is that, you see, America set the pace for others to follow.
Okay.
America set the pace for others to follow. And when others follow, you guys said they are wrong. America did that. President Obama and Sarkozy did that to Gaddafi in Libya. No, but everybody said they were right. They killed Saddam Hussein. George Bush later came and said there were no weapons of mass destruction. They caused war between Iraq and Iran. They killed themselves. They say they are right. The same thing today in Assad. If Russians were not in Syria today, Assad would have gone, or they would have killed him too. You see, so you see what Putin is doing. He has learned it. He has learned the policy of from the United States and NATO. NATO countries, they use the propaganda machinery to boost their image. But meanwhile, they set the pace for others to follow, and when they follow, they say they are wrong. So to me, I feel that what Putin is doing is a direct replica of what America has been doing to other nations in the world.
Yeah, but the question I'll ask is it because America invaded the Iraq and alongside France invaded Libya that we should justify?
It's a matter of strategic interest. It's a matter of strategic interest. Crimea and Ukraine are strategically located for Russia. Russia want an ally to be at his backyard who is answerable to Putin. They will not allow an ally at his backyard who is answerable to America and NATO.
Now, if we were to go to the history you just cited,
yes.
Now, you say that Russia is using brute force to create that ally. That is what you're saying.
That's what America is using.
So let me come.
Come,
please. Come. Yes, they are using brute force to create ally that can help them take care of their backside.
Yes.
Now, is America more friendly to Iraq today and Libya after their
because they got their stooge in power. America got and the prime minister
my question is are Iraqis more friendly to America today?
Yes, they are.
Okay,
they are.
You think so? And
Libyans? And because the prime minister of Iraq is a stooge of the United States.
No, you're talking about the prime minister. I'm talking about Iraqis.
Yes. But that's the government. If I call the prime minister, I'm going to Iraq.
And the same for Libya.
Same for Libya.
Okay.
Same for Libya.
So Libyans are.
It's a UN-led government.
Okay.
That's in Libya.
Yes.
UN-led government.
So what I'm telling you is that Mr. Kum, what I'm telling you is that what Putin is doing, no matter the polemics of people, no matter how you see it, it's a direct replica of America, what America has done to the world, and nobody's talking.
Okay. Yeah. Doctor, seemingly the US is supposed to be blamed here. The US is supposed to be blamed. You said the US gave. You said the US gave Zelensky, or NATO gave Zelensky the false courage to be able to challenge. To be able to challenge the Russia. But did Zelensky actually challenge?
Did Zelensky really challenge
Russia?
Did he challenge Russia?
Let me correct the statement. NATO gave Zelensky the courage to confront.
But did he really confront?
Of course, when somebody confronts, if you know that it's a superior, you have to bow.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking.
Okay.
What are we talking here?
I seemingly totally disagree with Apostle. Apostle has made a lot of sweeping statements that Russians are totally in support of Putin. And we are here, watch even Iran. More than 40,000 Russians are in prison because they protested against the war.
Including journalists.
We don't want to get into that. I don't think there are two debates here. The streets of Moscow, St. Petersburg, have been laundered for over 2 weeks, continuous protests, that the war in Ukraine is a Kremlin war. That I have read it somewhere. And making the world to believe that Russians are happy about it is a lie. The armor, like analyzed even by him in some media, is that the consequence of this one, the actions of Russia, falls on the common man within the streets in Moscow, St. Petersburg, and a lot of those nations. We know what will become of Russia at the end of this war. A lot have celebrated. We celebrate power. People celebrate authority. I believe in what sometime some political analysts have said. Power at times is not the use of weapons. Power at times comes equally with intelligence. I insist and I continue saying that Russia's attack on Ukraine was unfounded. Diplomatically, militarily, in all aspects, it was simply a statement of politics that has created and resulted to no injury on the Russian people. The wish to join NATO. Just likewise, we can withdraw the speech again like it did yesterday, that Ukraine is not even interested again to join NATO. Will Vladimir Putin reciprocate?
No,
Are they going to reciprocate by saying, okay, they are not going to be part, they are not going to be part of the NATO action? NATO has not installed anything away from NATO forces. What people have equally failed to understand is that Ukraine has a lot of friends across the world. A lot of people that were not even NATO member countries are giving support to that nation. When people say within it, Ukraine has been unable to meet up, yes, it is like David and Goliath battle. And we know what happened at the end to Goliath. And we need to see it. If they are coming, nobody knew that even Russia would have delayed up to a month without crossing over Kiev. I equally went through a lot of data. I see Russia asking assistance from China. Everybody has seen that. Financially, militarily, economically. The letter from Kremlin to the Chinese government. They should assist them. Who could even imagine that a war between Ukraine and Russia within 3 or 4 weeks, Russia with one of the second military force, will be begging assistance on the streets? Who could even think that people are going to leave Syria, that is even unable to be stable yet, that fighters will leave Syria to assist Russia? It is really something we cannot imagine. A lot of these issues, we could equally imagine that really the assistance of partners to Ukraine is working. And what I'm telling you is that today in the world in which we live, nobody has the mandate to tell another nation what it should do to its people. The wish of Ukrainian is to have a protection that will keep them away from the war armory and the warmongers in Moscow. And this is just what they wish. It is, Zelensky did not make a statement. It is based on this statement that he was voted. Zelensky was a political agenda for him. He was voted for that. And promising his people that I will take you there. I believe still remains, even Putin's own political agenda, we don't know, because in Moscow he's #1 strongman. He organizes elections and wins election, even without a political agenda like we have in Cameroon. We have never read their political manifesto, where Russia will be in 10 years' time. The only area we know is that when you come to military and any other things, Russia will support you. And that is what I believe in a lot of people. Russia came to the war after using a lot of billions to enrich themselves militarily. If they allow some of those weapons have expiring date. They will soon expire. And so where will they dispose them? For those of us that maybe have studied, there's a lot on waste management. Russia is one of the most polluting nations on earth. And a lot of it on chemical weapons. Russia buried a lot of arms off the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. If people, they should ask around. It was time for Russia to flex around and use some of those weapons about getting the expiration date to an end, and then know that they have discharged them officially. And I'm telling you that you will see things like Greenpeace and many other environmental organizations will soon come in after the war to ask what has become of those weapons that Russia brandished all around. We need to look at this war as a mere ego from a dictator that has been in power for over close to 30 years and wish to show the world that Russia can do again better.
Yeah, I gave you because you wanted to respond to this. Yes, but now, Ndiwums Emmanuel, in the place of Zelensky, you are the leader of a nation, and another giant nation says you have to give way or I crush you. What do you do?
No, Mr. Leo, I think there was another historian who said it was better to live a day and die like a lion than to live centuries and die like a fly. I think Zelensky, those who are just blaming, I heard words here like ego, Zelensky is acting out of foolhardiness. I don't see the place of these words as adjectives to qualify Zelensky. Because when you are the father of the nation, when you are swearing to take a nation, you swear also to defend the territorial integrity of that nation. I don't think Zelensky would have gone down on his knees to tell Putin that, no, please come and finish with my country. And Putin even went as far as asking his military to surrender inside his country. That would have been a betrayal of the national order. What he swore to defend the people and the territorial integrity of Ukraine would have been something very devastating. So I don't think those who are blaming Zelensky, we would have been saying that Putin called Zelensky for a dialogue and Zelensky never went. But what we are witnessing here, and we all agree, is the fact that Putin went for an attack. And you will not expect Zelensky to just give him like a woman and say, no, come and take over my country. Zelensky, he is doing what the head of every nation should have done. Some people say he would have accepted in order to save lives. Even after he has shown his unwillingness not to join NATO, why are the Russians still committing the atrocities they are committing there? So you discover that the plan of Putin was not only to attack Ukraine. Like Sule said a while ago, he has a plan to reconquer the lost states of the USSR, not just Ukraine. And if he succeeds in Ukraine, it gives him a green light to go over and attack the rest of the former USSR states. So what we should be saying here is, how do we hold Putin accountable as of now, so that we can keep a blockade that he does not continue with the damages? You just for the few weeks, you have seen that life in Europe has become very difficult. They are now talking about high prices in importations, life lost, people are displaced, a lot of damages in things that took the Ukrainians a long time to put them in place. As if the Russians are not losing. The Russians have lost equally a quite number of military men, Mr. Leo. We should not talk as if it's an easy ride for Putin. Putin is losing. But at the end of the day, Putin wants to drive across a point that I am the man here. I am the man leading. All what I see from my reading is that Putin wants to be the number one for no other good reason. Because if it was just about the NATO stuff, that they were planting NATO's war in Ukraine, why would he not opt to sit with Zelensky? The problem here is Putin, not Zelensky. Okay,
the problem is Putin by reading and not Zelensky. Now, let's look beyond this war. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, is the war moving apart from this? Are we seeing a redefinition of the camps being reinforced? We have the Eastern Bloc and we have the NATO bloc, and is Russia going to gain the backyard that he is seeking so hard to protect from Ukraine after the war?
Mr. Leo, people can blame Putin for all I care, but there are some things one has to stand to secure. In 1962, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. That was what John F. Kennedy fought, that Russia should not place their missiles in Cuba, focusing towards America. Putin is trying to redress history. This same thing is now occurring now. They want to position NATO in Ukraine, and he is fighting it. Why are they fighting him? Does America become, is he an outstanding individual? Nobody can confront him. Number two, if Dr. John says that Ukraine has resisted Russia throughout 3 weeks, it's amazing, because Ukraine alone is not fighting Russia. It's Russia against the world. All those economic sanctions they have not given to Ukraine. If they add the economic sanctions they are giving to Russia on Ukraine, Ukraine will no longer exist. So let us just bundle that chapter and keep one corner. And Russia has not wiped out Ukraine because they cannot wipe out Ukraine. Because they are still trying to maintain peace and make sure that things are done properly. It's not because they are resisting. It's not sweeping. How can you say that? Because are you telling us that Ukraine has resisted Russia? It's not a sweeping statement, Dr. John. It's not a sweeping statement. Are you telling us that? Are you telling us that? Are you telling us that it is Ukraine that has resisted Russia?
I'm telling you that Russia is not maintaining peace by killing.
Dr. John, when you are talking, let me talk.
Russia cannot be maintaining peace by killing. Now, say a statement, withdraw that statement.
It's not a
you cannot be maintaining peace when
listen.
But
take on a different
statement. The Russian president said they were going for a special military operation. Is that a special military operation?
That is a special military. Are they not sitting on the table? Are they not on the table? Is that not peace? They are on the table. They are talking. Is that not peace? Is that not peace they are looking for? Is that not peace they are looking for? What Putin wants to drive across to Ukraine is this. I am not having any intention of annihilating Ukraine. I don't want to destroy Ukraine. But if Ukraine will not sit on the table to negotiate things with me, this is how far I can go. And let me pass this information that Russia has not wiped out Ukraine because Ukraine is strong. Russia has terrible weapons, and if they want to crush Ukraine in 1 second, they will crush it in 1 second. It's a respect for humanity, and that's the reason why they keep advancing, yet talking on the table. A man that does not want peace will not even want to sit on the table. He will crush Ukraine in 1 second. Let's not go there. The next we have to understand concerning this whole war is this. Russia has been going through a lot of sanctions. America is giving sanctions. All the other European countries are giving sanctions against Russia. I don't know why they have not given sanctions against Ukraine.
Ukraine has not attacked.
Wait!
Since an aggressor,
wait, Dr. John.
The level of international diplomacy. I said Ukraine has not attacked Russia.
Dr. John,
they give sanctions to those who attack.
Dr. John, can I land?
Not should they attack the person? This Ukraine has not attacked. Don't be making misinforming Cameroonians.
I'm not misinforming anybody.
What should we sanction Ukraine on?
What are they sanctioning Russia for?
For the attack, the military invasion of Ukraine.
Listen very well, Dr. John. I'm explaining something. Don't just begin to throw statements all over the place as if you are trying to call what I'm saying. The problem is that you are already pro-Ukraine. That's the reason why I'm fighting you and I. You are pro-Ukraine. You are pro-Ukraine. I'm watching your photo on Facebook. So no, you are a pro-Ukraine person. So I am an anti-Ukraine. So we are at the loggerhead. Don't talk as if you want me to succumb to your side. I cannot succumb to you. Stay with Ukraine. I'm a Russian. Let us stay here. I will never act from my angle. I'm defending my own cause. You are defending your cause. Don't force your cause on me. You are a pro-Ukraine.
Be honest in
Dr. John, since this crisis started, you have been a pro-Ukraine from all your point and everything. It's not honesty. I'm giving you my facts. I'm giving you my facts. You are a pro-Ukraine, Dr. John. I cannot force you to be a pro-Ukraine.
Give me a reason for sanctioning Ukraine.
I'm asking you that.
Doctor, please. Doctor, please.
Dr. John is a pro-Ukraine, Mr.
Yes, accept it.
Please, stay there. Don't force me. Doctor. I must not join Ukraine. You stay at your Ukraine angle. I'm a pro-Russia.
Why you should sanction Ukraine is what I'm asking.
No. I'm the one asking the question.
No. Let me talk from my angle.
Just land.
Let me talk. Land. Did I first of all take over and landing? If you want to give the word to somebody, you should give it to somebody else. Why? Don't let the person talk. I'm talking, you don't allow me talk. When he talks, I sit quiet. He has been a pro-Ukraine since he started. Okay. And he should not force his ideology on me.
Let me cue you now, Apostle.
And you should not force it on me. It's not possible.
Apostle, let me cue you.
No, Mr. Leo.
Let me cue you now.
I've heard.
I should not cue you again. Say no, Mr. Leo. Apostle.
No, I should not be forced into his pro-Ukraine system. Why should I be forced into his pro-Ukraine system? America is sanctioning Russia as who? As who? As where police?
But you know that?
They are giving as who? Who gave them where police?
International police.
Who gave them where police?
Where do you have the United Nations?
Where you are? What does that mean? What does that mean? If the United Nations in America don't mean America where police? Is America the man in the United Nations? Is America the only man in the United Nations?
America has done a lot of things in this.
America has committed atrocity. Nobody has judged them. Now America is sanctioning everyone that committed an error. For what?
Apostle, can we come
this
down?
Man is pro-Ukraine and he will not enter my system.
Apostle,
on this table that we are sitting here, this show will close, Mr. Leo. This show will close. I will never be pro-Ukraine. I'm here to defend the cause of Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
No, you cannot take me out of my own track. I'm listening to you. You are a moderator. I'm listening to you. Get Dr. John not to throw me to Ukraine. I'm not a pro-Ukraine.
No. Apostle.
Mr. Leo, I've landed.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to respect that. Okay, yes.
What I want to say is that you see, when you go back to history, in 1984, Reagan overthrew Archbishop Maurice of Grenada because he was a communist. It was an idea. He overthrew him and put American stooge there. They killed Salvador Allende of Chile in 1979 because he was a pro-Marxist. And Americans is seeing Chile as their sphere of influence, is a background, and they don't allow a Marxist somebody to be there. So they killed. They killed Salvador Allende. In Nicaragua, in Venezuela, in Venezuela, they tried to kill this man, the other guy, man who died. They could not because they feel that he has social idea because as Venezuela it belongs to American sphere of influence. So they will not allow a socialist to be there. So when you look at all this, exactly what America has said the page is what Putin is trying to do, and now they are castigating Putin. Let me tell you something. It is true that Ukraine is no match to Russia in all ramifications. In all ramifications, Ukraine is not a match to Russia. But again, if Putin is embarking on an adventure to seize Ukraine to put a stooge there who will be answerable to him, is what he has copied from the United States and other NATO countries.
But now, can we now
Zelensky,
please, can we now answer my question?
Yeah, answer the question. Answer the question.
No. If Putin takes Zelensky away, is Ukraine going to be more friendly to Russia?
Yeah, gradually, as it has happened in Crimea, gradually peace, stability, and sanity will return to Ukraine. Gradually, it will return, just as it happened in Crimea. You understand?
And the Ukrainians are going to be loving to the...
That is why I'm telling you that Putin now will gradually restore peace, stability, and unity among Ukrainians, as he did in Crimea. In Crimea, it was the same thing. But now peace has returned in Crimea. It's a dead end. It is closed. So what I'm telling you, Mr. Kum, what I'm telling you is that whatever what Putin... Zelensky is not going to win this war. He's going to lose the war. Zelensky is not going to win this war. Zelensky is going to lose this war. And Putin is going to take Kiev. He's going to take... no matter what the Western propaganda...
Yeah. It's not much. My question is, I really want... We should be talking to teach. Not... but
that's what I'm telling you.
My question is, the objective is to take away Zelensky, who is a pro-West,
yes,
from Kiev, and then possibly replace him with a pro-Russian.
Pro-Russian or Putin.
Yes. But would that actually work in favor of Russia, or at this?
That's what I'm telling you, that Mr. Kum. I said gradually this uniformity will come, peace will come, stability will come, just as it was happening in Crimea.
Yeah, but was a leader in Ukraine not actually ousted through a revolution because he was pro-Russian?
That was in those days now. That was long time history.
No. Recently.
That was history.
Recently. Recently.
You're talking about Poroshenko. You're talking about Poroshenko.
Yeah.
Poroshenko was ousted because the people revolted against that you go. And it was masterminded by the United States.
Okay.
Was masterminded by the United States.
Okay.
It was masterminded by the United States. Yes.
Okay.
They set up their propaganda machinery against Poroshenko only for him to check out, and he checked out.
Okay.
Did they kill?
He was not killed.
It's not alive.
No, did not start alive.
Okay. Please. The UN in all of this. Where do we place the United Nations in of what is happening?
What is happening between Ukraine and Russia should be good notes for the world to be reading at this time, to know that UN has failed and failed woefully. Why has UN failed? UN has failed because from the inception, from the creation, some people were placed above others. Because I, talking from the African point of view, can never support anything that has to go through UN, because I know who owns UN. As they are talking, that is where I can be tempted to join. That is where I can be tempted to join Apostle and Mr. Souleiman, because UN in essence is America, and to a certain extent the lame France that we all know, and Britain somehow. But then we should be blaming how the UN was brought up, because if from the beginning UN was made in such a way that there was equality and equity, so that each nation, because we are talking here today, this war has made us to discover that we can even dismiss the principles of sovereign states, sovereignty. Because if an international organization like UN cannot defend a sovereign state like Ukraine, allow Ukraine to wallow in the hands of one dictator called Putin, like a bellow in his hand like a Turk, it means that the UN has completely failed. We have seen elsewhere in the world. Apostle said a while ago that America defied the UN Security Council principle and went and attacked Iraq. And we have seen it elsewhere. We have seen it in many places. So I think the question you asked a while ago about blocks, before the world should be looking at what kind of blocks, new blocks should be formed, I think UN should be scraped off first. I think UN is of no use as of now. Because we are talking about security. And security has to do with preserving life. What then is the function of the UN Security Council when lives are lost in almost all parts of the world every day and we have not seen them act? But then there is another error that I wanted to come out with. When Mr. Sule is talking and smiling as if Putin is nobody is a match. Let me tell you where it will take everybody by surprise in this particular war, Mr. Leo. In 1914, U.S. did not come into the First World War until the German U-boats started killing and touching the U.S. citizens directly. In 1945, it was the same thing. U.S. waited and waited. Wait, what I said here at the opening statement that Putin might not carry, his legs might not carry him so fast because as he's making all the things, he's exhausting his military. At one point in time, I am afraid. No, you cannot. Why are you frowning your face now, Mr. Sule? At one point in time, you will discover that things will turn around to his disfavor. And maybe these other nations are doing exactly what U.S. did in First World War, Second World War. When you get exhausted, they come in and they play is fast and a smart one on you. At that time, that your strength would have all gone in vain, Mr. Sule. And at that time, we'll be crying why Putin did not listen to the world. So you people who are pro-Putin, if you have his contact, please tell him to have everything.
Let me tell you something. Please, we are taking a short break, please. We are taking a short break to continue after.
Go to second time.
C'est bientôt l'heure de ma série sur Novelas.
Ah, mon film aussi passe sur Hollywood. Hein.
Avec la nouvelle application Canal+, retrouvez plus de 25 000 programmes en replay, profitez de 200 chaînes en direct et contrôlez votre consommation de data. Téléchargez-la dès maintenant, c'est inclus dans votre abonnement.
Welcome back. You're watching Prime on My Media Prime, and Dr. John Aku, what we are observing in Europe today, are we not setting the pace for an eventual third world war?
I believe very strongly that it is what we, those who think there was supposed to be not happening, that the provocation, at times, for you to get a hunter closer to a tiger, it is not when the tiger chases a big elephant. At times it counts when the tiger even gets back, a small raft of a sheep. We need to be very careful here. Major wars that have been fought, if you hear of Poland and Czechoslovakia, they were not major powers. The Second World War broke out because of the final attack on Poland and Czechoslovakia by Germany. We need to be very careful. Joe Biden made a statement this week that they will not allow Russia dictate the path of the world. That to Russia, it was that when they attack Ukraine, the big ones will come. Because his statement was that after attacking Ukraine, anybody that tried, he will strike them equally. But I've told the whole world, America will never fight the war in Ukraine, and they will not do it. America and Europe will not fight in Ukraine because they know the consequences of the war. That is what makes even the distinction between the capitalists and the communists. One person is ready at time to kill and go to the extent, even if it means wiping the whole world. Putin has promised the world sentence too. People should not forget. America has not promised us anything. But like we keep on saying, that the world at times, people say it's a propaganda, humanitarian, human rights, it's a propaganda agenda. I would tell them, and that I have seen, Africans talking and criticizing from Washington. I've seen Africans talking and criticizing from Paris. I've seen Africans writing and criticizing from London. I am still to see an Africa talking and criticizing from Kremlin. We are still to see Africans talking and criticizing from Moscow. We are still to see Africans talking on the streets in Zenit against Putin. But I'm happy for that. If we look at that, you will equally think that the world was going to end after this particular Ukraine. Some have never witnessed a war. I equally try to see a lot of people on their vision is to see how jets can fly in air and fight. Some people want to see a confrontation. But I beg them, and like I said within the White House forum, that there should be no need to fight in Ukraine. And we don't need a third world war. We need a world of peace. That's why I see when I came on this table, I have asked people, will Russia lose anything if Russia accepts today to join NATO? If Russia just decides to be a member of NATO or be a member of the EU, can you imagine the strength the world will have if we have to fight evil together with Russia on the other side, America on the same block? We need, that is what I'm talking. Just imagine where some of us will be. If I see Russia in NATO and see Russia in EU, I will open one of the biggest whiskey to drink. The world is going to be more stable than we have ever thought before. And we know bad leadership, we know poor leadership, we know regimes that are suppressing their own very citizens. We know them. And within it, people will tell you that it is because America wants to over. But I said the world cannot be without leadership. If a family, if a village, if a country, then in a global world, there must be that hierarchy of power. And if people don't accept, if we accept now that Russia should lead because of its own style, will everybody really accept that Russia should lead the world because of military strength? Can everybody agree that the United States should not lead and Russia should lead from that bloc? Yes, we go under appeasement, protectionism. Everybody should build his nation, build his territory and stay. Let's see where it takes us to. Yes. But I believe very strongly that the world can live a world of bridges rather than the world of walls, a world of military control. If we are fighting today, we should try to see that the rights of Ukrainians should be respected equally as we respect Russians wherever they are. People may try to argue a lot, but sincerely, Vladimir Putin will give a second thought. And that is the reason I said 48 hours after, I have never seen the nation, the nature, and the number of diplomatic missions visiting Kremlin like they did before even Russia attacked Ukraine. I saw movement into Kremlin. People telling him that we can talk. Attacking after 48 hours and coming to talk, I believe it's just like paddling one leg in front and one leg back. It doesn't make sense after hitting a hospital, hitting a school, hitting airport, markets, and in all those cases, victims have been hurt. There is a way we have a duty to protect life. I will still insist, if America had attacked Iraq, people will see equally that there were a lot of TV agendas against American invasion of Iraq. But that should not justify that Russia has the right to attack too.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm impressed with today's debate as usual. My regret is that some panelists are misleading public viewers. Russians are not supporting Putin. About 40% are against so many Russian soldiers have surrendered because they were not told that they are going to kill in Ukraine. Apostle Ambe Calm down, please. Calm down. Be the gentleman you have always been. Larry Esson, writing from Kumba, I'm sure, Oboya, says, good evening, Director. Kindly tell Apostle Ambe and Dr. Ako to come back to themselves. Okay. Hello, Mr. Kum. Good topic. Apostle Ambe should relax, calm down. As a gentleman, we know him. Giando is writing from Mancon. Please, 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 please. I'm sure everybody has calmed down. We are going to discuss. Now, with the look of things, Apostle, Russia is already in Ukraine. Zelensky says, I have no intention of ever joining NATO, but the war is still on.
That's exactly what I'm trying to let you understand, that this NATO stuff is like an immediate cause. Until we get to the roots and treat this thing from where it's coming from, we are going to be dancing the same dance over and over.
So what is the root then?
The root cause is that Vladimir Putin has an agenda. And that agenda is to recover all the lost territories of the former Soviet Union. And that thing is what America, who contributed to the dismantling of the former USSR, is what they do not want by any means.
So if we were to get to the root of this, we have to recover all the states and get them joined.
Not recovering all the states. They have to bring Russia to the UN Security Council. And make him understand that these people are already independent. And according to the demography of the world right now, these people are independent countries. Don't dare this thing, because you're going to spark a war. Why has America not carried gun? America has weapons that can confront Russia. But if they take a military approach, innocent persons will die. That's why they have diverted to an economic sanction. They are giving the economic sanction towards Russia, because why? If they engage the military, it's going to be very, very catastrophic. Now, look at what Putin did in 2014. He took over Crimea. People kept quiet. Just like the biblical scripture, the parable that says that when Herod killed James, it pleased the Jews. He went ahead to take Peter, and then the church rose up. It's the same thing Putin has done. He's collected Crimea. He's now testing waters again in Ukraine. Now America too has written and said, if we leave this guy continue, the next country will be Belarus, Estonia, Latvia, Bosnia and Herzegovina. They want to stop this thing. But the approach in stopping it is where the trouble is. I'm sure there's a United Nations. It shouldn't have remained between a matter of America giving sanctions on Ukraine.
But a UN Security Council held, and whatever resolution that came out emanated from it was vetoed by Russia, who is a member.
Russia is part of the
UN Security Council. Yes.
China. There are 5 members.
Yes.
Britain, France, America.
During that vote, China abstained, but it was vetoed by Russia. Russia would never allow such a resolution go through.
That is okay. Now, this is exactly what we are trying to explain here. If I thought they couldn't solve it through a United Nations Security Council, what other approach would they approach? Is it by sanctioning Russia? Is it by giving all the economic sanctions? No. Tell Zelensky, it's as simple as ABC. You are not going to join NATO because this is what is causing this person to feel bad about this whole stuff. I have stopped it. When he refuses now, then they will know the next minute, because if this thing blows up into a full-blown war, I'm telling you, Austria, who is not part of it, will suffer.
Yeah, but the question now is, Zelensky said yesterday that he was not going to join NATO.
That was 24 hours ago. We are yet to get the outcome of it.
Okay.
We are yet to get the outcome.
Is the world not helpless yet? Because the UN Security Council is...
We are yet to get the outcome of
because
that statement.
The most powerful instance is considered to be the UN Security Council. But Russia is a member here and making it very difficult. How do we stop this?
The same thing happened during the Iraq War. America stood its ground and they passed one of the highest resolutions in one day against Iraq. Russia vetoed, but the resolution still continued.
No. America bypassed. Yes, the UN Security Council resolution had no ban on the US. The US actually disregarded whatever the UN decided and went in for the war.
I agree with you. Yes. Now that is why you see now the 2 contending powers at the Security Council are America and Russia, and these 2 contending powers, they are loggerheads now. So whichever resolution you bring, one party will veto it. It will not go through.
Yeah, but the question now is, that is as it stands. We saw what the US did in Iraq and Libya, and we know how they left Iraq and Libya. how do we solve this issue in Ukraine?
Should talk with Russia.
No, the point is that one, America should first talk with Russia.
Not Ukraine.
America should meet. See, Biden should sit face to face with Putin. Let them talk on the issue of this Ukraine thing. If as long as Biden and Putin they are talking on telephone, it's really no ground. Let them meet face to face at a neutral ground and let them talk this thing. I own this thing. If they do that, I think 75% of the problem has been solved.
This is a war between Ukraine and
Russia.
And it's Biden that is supposed to come and talk with.
That is why you see the point is that you see Biden, NATO, and America and NATO, they are doing their possible best not to get themselves fully involved in this war.
Now, should Biden go and discuss with Russia, and Russia agrees to Biden and back out of Ukraine?
No,
is this not just confirming the fact? Are you not telling the world that Ukraine is with the US?
No.
No, Mr. Liu.
Yes, because he came to plead your case. Yes.
I can target you by targeting your child. I can target you by targeting your child.
So you are saying that Ukraine is a child of the US?
Oh yes. What are you talking?
It's clear now. It's clear now, Mr. Kum.
So how do we sort this out?
What I say, Mr. Liu, there are troubles going on in Africa. When have you ever seen America give sanctions to a country in Africa that is tormenting another country, like what they are doing right now? They have touched his son. It's his son.
Not really,
doctor.
Not really, because I'm seeing North Korea is still under American sanction. I don't believe he has attacked anybody. China still have a lot of sanctions in American cupboard. I don't think China has attacked anybody. There's international game. Remember when Donald Trump came in power? I just want to remind you, when Trump came in power, Trump just thought that economic agreements and trade were not well negotiated. He sanctioned a lot of Chinese companies. China has to go back for negotiation.
That's true.
So at times some sanctions came in for an error committed in diplomacy.
And China to retaliate.
Yeah, the retaliation, I'm still telling you that China can retaliate.
Yes.
There is one person who owns certain things in the world. Apostle Ambe is trying to say the economy of Russia has been suffering a lot of sanctions. That can equally give us an idea how stubborn the Russian politicians have been. And if they come to accept with the dictates of international diplomacy, Russia would be a better friend. That's what I'm just saying here. I said if Russia has to get on, it is but normal. A gentleman agreement. I said before even the war, Mr. Leonard will not count how many missions went to Kremlin that we can talk this thing. And like we are in Cameroon, we are talking about South Cameroon and Eastern Cameroon or West Cameroon and East Cameroon. We have insisted that dialogue is better than arms. If dialogue can take us 100 years, let's continue in that way. If the conflict between Russia and Ukraine can take us 100 years, let the arms keep on waiting. You cannot start killing and then you call that we should talk. I mean, the US State Department sent an envoy to Kremlin. President Emmanuel Macron, France is the head of European Union diplomacy, was in Kremlin. We can see German Chancellor was in Kremlin. A lot of that, the Holland sent a representative to Kremlin. We can talk this thing. I don't know from which ground we think Europe were egoistic, like people keep present it on media. Some people said we have been brainwashed by European media and propaganda. I don't know how many of us really get Russian language here. I don't know which language they use. So we should be listening and watching TV from Russia or China. It is, at times, it becomes so myopic when I see people reason that way. I was asking Apostle Ambe, I said maybe somewhere he need to tune up BBC and CNN. And I see where he will have information concerning Turkey. Because we know some people are leaders in the world. Let's assume. I told people that if we need an American expert, I will prefer to be a subordinate under an American than be a subordinate under a Russian. Because I know somewhere, one day, I will at least even get the language they are talking. Somewhere, I will learn the techniques they are using. And this is the level which Africa need to go. We need to somewhere, for you to become a leader, honestly, you must learn to serve. People don't even know how China grew up to be what it is today. China sent a lot of students to America on scholarship. China sent a lot of students to the darkest universities in America. We thought American education was sacred. China sent them in. They studied in those universities, took the technology. If you go for investigation, you will see it. If America was not that an open world, we saw 3 students here last 3 years, and after the guys disappeared. The US State Department has those records. that they have not carried arms against anybody. There is any, no, please. We are just telling, we are not deviating. Please, Mr. Sule, just listen. When it comes to your turn, you try to bring us to the table. There is a need for Russia to accept that the world, I said the world needs a leadership, and they can never be two captains on the same ship. But I'm telling you, Biden will speak. He said, yes, Trump contained the young guy in North Korea. He vibrated a lot. But it was, can you imagine? Can Russia really do that? For Donald Trump to have fixed a meeting with Kim Jong-un in a neutral venue. They met and talked.
Leadership now.
That's leadership.
Leadership now.
That is the same thing. Yeah, it's what I'm saying here.
Who is in the White House now?
No, it is not a matter of who's in the White House.
Well,
Apostle,
why-
please, excuse me 1 minute.
why is
I said,
Putin
a lot
not
of leadership have been to Putin. A lot of leaders in the world were in Kremlin, not like Kremlin coming to them, to talk to them so that we can talk this thing out. Do not attack Ukraine. You have given the world some time for this particular dialogue. There is a need for dialogue. Putin equally need to really listen. Because when we talk among leaders, if President Emmanuel Macron can be in Kremlin, I don't think it was bias. If the German Chancellor could be in Kremlin, I don't think it is bias. Why not call them, okay, I know you people came in all your tents, but now let's organize a big 7. They have their G8. Let's talk this thing before even it is after this meeting that I will make up my mind. Let's talk it. Russia did not give the opportunity. I said Trump moved to Asia, and it is common with Americans. And I said that is leadership. Somewhere, Putin equally need not only the other leaders inviting him, but he should equally try to think at least for once to invite these leaders. If we need to quell this crisis, we should not blame the West. The West, can Putin step down from that its kingdom chair and talk to people too as equals? Can they visit London? Can he fix in Philippines, let them meet in Manila, who is not a territory, that okay, Macron judges this, who I want us to meet there. Can Putin make such an arrangement? Let's see if these guys will not attend up.
Okay. Yes, how do we get out of where we are today? No,
there is, I've often said, I'm yet to see a factory that produces a peace bullet. There's no peace bullet. When a bullet is coming out, it is to kill. What is left now is to do the talking. Like Churchill once said, let's talk, 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 and talk again. So I don't think if we were to go back to the doctrine of Churchill of talk, talk, and talk, not war, war, and war, I think it is time for the world to consider talking and drop the guns. Because we need to live. The world exists because there is life. And life exists because the people are living. If everybody dies today, who will fight? Who will talk? So we need to talk, Mr. Liu. I think that's the only thing. But it's regrettable that before the talking, the damage has been done. But do we click to the damage that has been done so that more damage should be done? No. Do we keep blaming America, that America attacked here and there yesterday, using it as a bargaining power to back Putin's actions in Ukraine? No. I think it's time to talk, talk, and talk, and not to war, war, and war.
Okay, it's time to talk, talk, and talk, not to war, war, and war. We are diving straight to our second topic for tonight, which has to do with the condition of our private school teachers. Apostle Ambe, Valentine, Ngwa, everybody has to answer this. When you look at the teachers teaching in our private schools in Cameroon, be the nursery, primary, secondary, university, are you happy? Are you contented with how they are treated?
No, Mr. Leo, they are not well treated. I'm not happy with it because, you know, when it comes to managing teachers in private schools, especially in Cameroon, is very poor. Why? I'm talking as a proprietor that owns a school.
Okay.
Yes, and I do my best to see how I can upgrade the standard of my teachers, but I still consider it not being the best. I'm just being sincere as a leader. I will not come here to defend my own school because I'm talking about private schools. My teachers are not catered as expected. This is because, first and foremost, when it comes to managing private schools in the country, the government does not, I repeat, does not put a price tag on the head of a teacher. So we, the proprietors, decide how much we pay you as a teacher, which is very wrong. And there are people who are very exploitative. There are also proprietors who have good heart. They are kind-hearted. They can be able to see your condition and be able to say, okay, let us keep the people in this amount of this salary in order to give them a better life. But not the same with others. And because everybody has the right to decide what he or she wants
proprietors exploit the teachers. They exploit them. A teacher is teaching a primary school and is earning 25,000 francs. The transport fare to that school for a month is 30,000 francs. What does the teacher go home with? And then your family will sit somewhere in the village thinking that you are in a city walking. And then only for them to realize that at the end of the day you have nothing to show for, which is very, very bad. So we also, as proprietors, we have to develop a conscience that feels for the people. I'm talking as one. Number two, there are certain privileges that were supposed to have been outlined for teachers. But those things are not in place. Anybody can set up a school. You see the proprietor is making 50 million per year. The teachers are unable to eat up to 2 million or 3 million in that money. You see a teacher teaching more than a class, because sometimes they double 2 classes, class 3 and 4 in a class, and is earning the salary for 1 class. Salary for 1 class. It is very, very bad. That is the truth. I'm talking as a school proprietor, somebody who owns a school, legal school, not a clandestine school. My school is officially registered. Go to the Ministry of Basic Education. I have my RTA. The issue is, if at all some measures were put in place in the private sector, organized by the state, and properly followed up, proprietors will also develop fear. There are proprietors who are riding jeeps of 50 million, and their teachers do not have transport to school. Teachers do not even have health facilities. They don't even have opportunities that if a teacher falls sick tomorrow, the school can be responsible for their health, which are causing the money to come into the school. I think it is extremely bad. So people sometimes are so liberal to the extent that they do whatever they want to do. And the only thing that can bring people to order is the arm of the law. The government has to enforce laws. Like in Nigeria, the least you can pay a gate man is 18,000 naira under the Buhari regime, which if you multiply it at first, it was about 72,000 before the naira fell. That is a standard barem, a particular amount of money that you must pay even a local domestic worker. But here in Cameroon, there's no particular limit to what you pay any person, which is very, very bad. So I think that we as proprietors, since the state has not given us that draconian measures to put in place, we also have to search our conscience to consider that the teachers coming to our school are people's fathers, people's mothers. Teachers coming to our school also have a means. They should also have a means of livelihood. Teachers coming to our school are the ones making the school what it is. Teachers coming to our school are the ones who are actually laboring. And also the subventions they give to schools in Cameroon is nothing to write home about.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and greetings to all the panelists members. Let me ask a question here. If America has been committing atrocities as some people claim, is that a good reason why we shouldn't blame Putin for attacking Ukraine in that manner? Why would people still support war and killing in the 21st century? Paul Numbuma, writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, I wish Apostle Ambe should be given more time to express his mind. General Putin is right. The NATO failed to disarm in 1991 USSR. Did NATO wants to absorb the members of former USSR and to move down to block the Black Sea, a thing Russia will not accept. Ukraine knows that, so I support Putin 100%. I pray that Putin should crush Ukraine and come and control Africa. Tafa Simon is writing from Buddha. Okay, so Putin should finish with Ukraine and come to Africa. Okay, Daisy writing from Kumba says, good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the wonderful cream of panelists. I am learning a lot from these panelists. Thank you for this topic, Mr. Liu. Thank you, Daisy. Yes, when you certainly have friends who teach in private schools.
I think, to the best of my knowledge, Apostle Ambe has formalized everything.
Okay.
Teachers are being exploited, dehumanized, relegated to the background, as if they are nothing in the society. When they teach us ABC, Obasanjo said in Nigeria that if there's anybody to be paid high salary, must be a primary school teacher. Yes. Because he taught us that ABC. You are supposed to pay, but here they have been turned as a riffraff. They don't have no respect. They don't have no. I mean, we are tired, Massa. Teachers, only God will pay them. It's only God that will pay them. And the government has not made any standard law for protect private teachers. No. They are the mercy of their employers. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As I said, they join 2 classes and give 1 teacher. This is exploitation. And the same salary. And when you talk, they say, you pack your things and go because they know job outside there is not easy. and you have no other way but just to succumb. I said, okay, I will teach. You see, I mean, teachers are doing their best, but again, they are still suffering. I think there must be a law enacted by Parliament to promote, protect, and defend the overall interests of private teachers.
Yes, but if teachers are not well taken care of in the private sector in the domain of education has been existing for some time now, for so long in Cameroon. How do we explain that they are dehumanized, they are not well taken care of? Who is to blame? Is it the employer or they themselves who allow themselves to be used by them?
No, Mr. Leo, to a lesser extent, they are to be blamed. You know, when a government finds and fine-tunes mechanisms that can make their citizens to be beggars in their own country, you don't expect them to run to where they don't know how to run to. But before I come, you need to, in Cameroon, we are talking about a system where the proprietor decides how he recruits, how he pays, the date he pays. When he fails to pay and he chooses to drive you away, nobody helps you. You are not affiliated to any, say, MPS. You are not entitled to any sick or hospital allowance. And at times, they even carry forward your salary. If you happen to be in a school where they can pay you up to 100,000 francs, they give you workload that you cannot do in a year. And at the end of the day, if you have to question them, that is not answering the question why you're asking me whether it is the teachers who are the problem. To a certain extent, the teachers are the problem. But we cannot blame them because with what is happening in Northwest and Southwest now, somebody who speaks only Pidgin in Douala can become a teacher. Because the proprietors have mastered the terrain so well that, let me tell you tonight, these proprietors do not want those who have KPM. They don't want skilled teachers because the skilled teachers will ask high salary. They want teachers who have not gone through any formal training so that they can exploit anyhow. So when we are talking about exploitation, the exploitation also goes with your level.
Are you saying that those from KPM, with KPMs from working with the private sector in the education sector are well taken care of? Is that what you're saying?
No, that is not exactly what I'm saying. But I'm telling you that in some schools here in Douala, in most, 90%, the proprietors will not want to take people who are skillful. Because the people...
Ambe is a proprietor. Is that what you are doing?
No. The truth is, when it comes to taking teachers, we always go for the best.
Okay.
We always go for the best. Because that's what I think the way Mr. communicate is that the desperation to work by some of these teachers, they are taking advantage of.
Okay.
Yes. So a proprietor will choose to take a teacher who has taught just for 2 years, who will accept to be paid 60,000, than to take somebody who is a KPM holder who has a lot of experience, who will come and ask for 100,000. That forms part of that exploitation. And now, since the government is paid, because all this boils down to bad governance, Mr. Leo. When you graduate from the teacher's training and the government tells you to go to a government school and teach as a PTA teacher, so that when they launch recruitment, you will be easily taken. And in that government school, they are giving you 10,000 francs for PTA. That is where the proprietors are copying all these bad examples. Because they know that the government has failed in its part to actually define. Like in Ghana, those who are working with the public schools and those who are working in the private school, they are paid on the same day. And it is under the supervision of the state. The state has put a barem, as the apostle said a while ago, that each private school, this is the least amount a teacher should be paid, and this is the limited date. And I think in our context, we should try to help the government a bit by proposing something. If the government could boast, because in every country that the private sector is booming, it lessens the burden of the government. If the government can look into what is happening in the private sector in Cameroon and decides, because these proprietors, they have money. You need to see the kind of cars, the iPhones that their children are using. Whereas a teacher can even work for 10 years and will never raise that kind of money to buy such an iPhone. So I think the government needs to take its responsibility in this case, because if the government puts a standard amount, you will discover that there will be less social tension, and when there's less social tension, the government benefits because the people will be self-reliant.
You just said that someone would want to work for 60,000 instead of 100,000 in Douala.
Desperation.
Yes, but in Douala, 100,000 is really well taken care of for teachers?
No, we are talking comparatively. We are talking comparatively. Because if I were to tell you the best salary of teachers who are recruited in the primary school you will have is 93,000 francs. Go and verify. Basic salary for a contract teacher just contracted by the government. So that is why I'm trying to say that the fall turns around bad governance. The government has sacrificed its teachers, and the proprietors are benefiting from this.
Let's agree that maybe the government has bad policies and it's not taking care of the people, because the government is nobody. It's almost everybody. Yeah. The government is a structure. We are talking about individuals who are Christians or believing Muslims who go to church and pray to God, who have a who know what
human heart.
Yes. They are parents, they live and pay. These are individuals. Is it to say that they don't make enough money, or the fact that the government is failing is a clear license for them to not to take care?
One of the things we need to know and also accept that the human nature is one of dominance.
Okay.
The human nature is one which we believe that people serve us better when they are poor, when they are poorly treated. We are not going back to describe what went through during, what transpired during the slavery period, that a slave who worked more eats less and is even paid less. One of the things we have equal, you cited a lot of things. Some people go to church to take titles. Some people go to church to be seen. There are some people who just wear their nice dress to expose them in church. People are not there for the faith. People are not there for the decrees and dictates of Christianity or what religion is saying. Because when you look at what you just cited, some people will know already that they are not candidates of heaven. So there is no need for them to even attend a mass. So a lot of these people you have said, they go to church every day. Some of them equally are imams in some places. You need to know. When we look at the comparison of the life, there is a need for us to ask ourselves. I built a school in 2010, and today it is 15 years this school has been existing. This school has now 10 classrooms and ultra-modern labs and all the like. Has that happened same with teachers whom I started with 10 years ago? If you ask that question and you cannot be given the right answer, the institution to which we constructed together with the same teachers, they need a befitting home. He needs a car too. They need holidays. When they need also to go to Haiti or Jamaica. Again, you see, it is one part of which Africans grew up with. Some people are slaves, others are kings. And it goes on within an African enterprise. I will tell you that with all the criticism we have talked here, people would prefer to teach in a Turkish school or American school right here in Douala than to teach in a school, which is a Cameroonian school. And you go to those same schools, the school fees paid in that same American school and that same Cameroonian school, there is no difference. The same, I mean, I said it's a general Cameroonian malaise. Why not of companies? The same amount we sell beer in Kaji is the same amount we sell beer in Brazzaville and Guinness. Go and look at the situation of workers in all those two enterprises. Those who work with Cameroonian companies, which are even abroad, you need to check again. We are not talking of this. In fact, I said, when you see a Cameroonian worker is at the mercy of heaven, talk less of a school teacher. Talk less of a school teacher. These people depend on the mercy of parents. You can, even parents go to school and make gifts to these teachers to encourage them. People even buy seats in class. Let my child sit in front and not behind the bench. And you know what happens when a worker is poorly treated? The corruption we are complaining will never cease. In a country where you have a machinery that controls salary and makes sure salaries are paid, that controls the social working condition. You have your own child. You are a teacher in school. The child is going to that same school. They ask you to pay 60%. Should you even pay a franc? Are you even paid? Are they paying you? There is what we call milk. means of sustenance. You are basically living. There's a difference between living and making a life. Teachers in Cameroon, I said, look at their faces. I don't want to go into details. A teacher is unable to change a shirt for the whole academic year because the few shirts he bought in September 2 or 3 will get white and start losing threads while still going to the same class. I said, teachers are at the mercy of. If Cameroon is sincere.
Yeah, but the question is, are the proprietors poor?
That is what I said. They are not. I am telling you that it's not a matter of poverty. A lot of them make accounts at the end of the year, and they know the billions they have in their accounts. A lot of them go to Europe, and you hear very nice speeches from them. You know, as we took holidays here, I was in Kenya. I saw a lot of things. And after that, my son called me in America, and I was there. You find somebody that was not traveling yesterday is now traveling. And you ask your teachers if they have even visited their parents in the village. Because the last salary you gave them excluded the 12th month. They paid them there for 10 months, 9 months. It is deplorable. I said the situation is deplorable. If some of us are made commissioners of police or supreme state control, it's a position at which any president of this republic should appoint some of us there. We don't want to be prime ministers. Send me to be at supreme state control so that we decide what to audit and what to investigate. Teachers in Cameroon, including those of the government, my brother, we are the least in the sub-region. We are the least in the sub-region. One thing with government is the aspect of laxity. But if you go to the same salary, primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, don't mind, as you see, they said OTS, on a true supporté. They have been supporting. It's not easy. When I come, my child start reciting a poem. You are muffled. You are muffled, but you need to look at the life of that teacher. At times we even buy soap. Meaning they are going to school, just send 2 tablets of soap, give your teacher. Look at the means at which teachers are encouraged to stay in class. A teacher is meant to stay in class happily and joyously. And we have the means.
Okay.
This nation have the means. The proprietors, I said government should set a machinery, a commission to investigate around and put the barem.
Okay.
Like what Apostle Ambe was saying. Let's say the barem and make sure it works. Honestly, the labor code give laxity. Even after the Smith, labor code equally give laxity for freedom of people to negotiate their contract. And so employers, a lot of them are basing on that.
Okay.
The latest day to pay salary by the constitution, the labor code, at least by the 8th, maximum by the 8th of the month, everybody has paid.
Okay, when France imposes its dictatorship on Cameroon and other African countries, you pro-Russians in the studio will complain. And when dictator Putin invades a sovereign Ukraine, you adhere to act. Where then are we heading? Good evening, Mr. Kum. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Dictator Putin had planned this war long ago. He's playing the tortoise game, thinking that the fact that he supplies oil to Germany and other European nations will allow him this far, but he will be defeated. Let's watch out, okay? Good evening to you. You and your panelists are doing a wonderful job, Mr. Leo. I am capiet holder since 2016, but have to try on my own in the private sector, which mostly treats us as teachers. How can a teacher, a technical department from 1 to 3 with a salary of 40,000 francs? Assemblés. But some of these salaries are, how do we even understand? You are a proprietor, you're paying somebody 30, 25, 40, 45,000 teacher francs CFA for people who are working maybe in Douala or Yaoundé. How do they survive?
Mr. Leo, that's a very, very complicated question. Yes, to ask me how do they survive. If the person is still going to the school and collecting the 25,000, they have not backed out, I'm sure he has another means of survival. And some people sometimes teach because it's a passion.
Okay.
Not because of the income they want to really make. And some just get interested and excited to teach. That's why they can take anything. The Englishman says, half bread is better than none. You might not know where they are living without that teaching. And you don't know what they will go through without the teaching. It is the economic situation of the country. That is the reason why people are, how do I put it, they are hanging on the fence in order to survive. That's the truth. If you go to a country like Côte d'Ivoire, primary school teacher earns 320,000 francs, while a secondary school earns 580,000 francs. In our own government, how much does a primary school teacher earn in the country? 130,000 francs, 130. The highest paid people in Rwanda are teachers. So I think if at all the state had done something concerning teachers and given us the impression, because I'm sure it's the way they've also presented teachers to proprietors. If they had given us the impression that every other person in the country is raised by a teacher, also give a picture of teachers being responsible, do some propaganda, or it's propaganda, or do some publicity that magnifies the office of teaching. Because we are considered teachers as beggarly people. People consider teachers as beggars in the society. So, which is already, when you come from a psychological point of view, they know you are a desperate individual. So they will treat you under that desperation anyhow. And I think some honor and decorum and some dignity is supposed to be attached to the teaching office. Thereby, the next generation will also understand that teachers are the ones who raise presidents, governors, and the rest of the society. Such honor should be given to teachers and such attention should be given to teachers. If not, we'll keep on dancing front and back, front and back, front and back.
Okay.
There are also institutions in the country that the government should consider their fee. A school that a child pays 280,000 francs should at least pay a teacher at least 150,000 francs. There are also schools where they pay 70,000 francs. You don't expect teachers to earn the same amount of money like what the schools that have the same, that kind of fee should be paid. If you're in a school you teach where a child pays 280,000 francs for daycare, your salary should be different. And then if I thought the government had kept a particular barrier, they should also insist that those who are supposed to teach are professional teachers who have been trained from teachers in schools. So we'll have a competent work. Because this time around, people can pick even those who have first school living certificate because they know you will take 15,000, they put you there. And our children are drinking trash. Sometimes parents go through the children book in the house and are not able to understand what the teacher has written. Because you go to the class, the teacher has no experience and nothing concerning teaching. But now proprietors will employ you based on the amount of money you will take, not based on the experience you can offer. For instance, somebody who does not have any experience and is not skillful and accepts to take 20,000, we prefer to somebody who has 50,000 and is qualified. The effect now, the ripple effect now falls upon the kids because the kids are drinking from the wrong source.
Okay.
So those things have a lot of consequences, a chain of consequences that are very, very devastating.
Good evening, Mr. Liu. We, the teachers of private schools, are good teachers, but the way proprietors are treating us is not fair. Apostle Ambe, I congratulate you for that. All rich people are sending their children, but in private schools. Isn't that exploitation in Kumba? In particular, they are just exploiting teachers. A teacher leaves his house at 5 a.m. and comes back at 6 p.m. God forbid. Modika Christopher is writing from Itoki, Bakundu. This one says, good evening. Sir, I'm Genesis Nchi from Fumbot. For me, private teachers are only needed in private schools because they are not up to the level of the government in Cameroon. Many of them are not mostly recognized in terms of finance, okay? Good evening, Mr. Leo. I think, first of all, the blame should fall back on the teachers. If the teachers' trade union was firm and they were working together with or without the government, they can decide on the minimum salary. The government can then decide to adopt this principle if the trade union together with its members are working hand in gloves. Therefore, the blame goes back to the teachers, okay? Congrats to Dr. Ako. He has exposed what Cameroon teachers are going through. Thanks, Mr. Kum. Continue. Thank you, too. Thanks for this wonderful program. It's not only teachers in Yaoundé Central Market. People who call owners of companies are paying people working under them 25,000 francs to 30,000 francs. Let government really look into this matter seriously. Nadia is writing from Yaoundé, working in the Central Market, Yaoundé. Thanks again. I pray for God to bless you people the more. Thank you, Nadia. Good day to you all. Ambu Waters from Melon. No true man of God can stand for Russia's satanic acts. Apostle, she gave us that part of the Bible which justifies evil today just because there was evil in the past. Okay? Okay, but let us look at what is happening in our schools. Is the problem not the fact that proprietors in justifying the reasons for the creation, they say it is because they want to help build society. Meanwhile, the real motive is business. That is, a teacher is just used as a tool to make money.
Yeah, the problem for school is skilled and unskilled workers. They were teachers. You have skilled and unskilled teachers. Where the skilled teacher cannot accept the conditions of the proprietor, the unskilled teacher comes in now and take the money.
Are skilled teachers really well taken care of?
They are not. That's why the proprietors don't want to, many of them.
We say in the government.
They don't want to.
Within the government.
Within the government circles, they are not well taken care of. But so we are talking about the private sector.
Yeah, but is the issue not the motive for the creation of these private schools? If the motive was to better the lot of the people, because it is it's often said that you want to provide quality education. Quality education will require quality teachers, and quality teachers will require quality treatment.
So what happens is that the government said they are allowing people to create school because they want Cameroonians to be literate. That is why there's laxity in the creation of schools. They bring the competent people there to handle the problem. They are not there. They only bring half-baked teachers to come and teach teachers because they don't want to pay the real salaries. So that is the problem. Why government has good intention by liberalizing school, so that school can be found anywhere. But again, the true people who are supposed to man those schools to have good products, the people are not there because of salary differences. So these are the problems. So until we redress those things and trade union of teachers, they too they have to stand to promote, protect, and defend the overall interests of teachers. If they are not there to protect the interests of teachers, then the whole thing is not going to work. Because all these half-baked teachers, all these unskilled teachers, their problem will be taken care of, and they will even be thrown away and be competent.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Leo, I wanted to come in on that question. Do you know that in a country where the government functions well, for an individual to create a school, you must be an educationist. But I want to tell you tonight that in Cameroon, 90% of school proprietors in Cameroon have nothing linked to education. Most of them are successful businessmen whom, because of some connections with people at very high levels in Yaoundé, they are authorized to open these schools. They know nothing about quality education, as we are asking the question. It is a profit-making agenda, which is well known. And because of that, that explains why when they create school A this year, and they take those kind of teachers that they can take, they work for 5 years, they create school B, still the same proprietor. But then, those teachers are not paid. And like Pa Sule, he's coming back to what I was telling you a while ago. You go to a particular school, you say, this is the experience I have. I think my salary should be 120,000. Another person will come because of desperation. He has never been to a certain level of education. He will say, no, I accept 65,000. They will take the person because it's a money making. They are out to make maximum interest. That's the bottom line here. It's not as if they don't have the money. They have the money, but because they are living in a country where even the state has resigned from its own function, they don't take care of those who are state teachers. How will you blame a proprietor? Because the government has failed in the first place, and the proprietor is just following suit after what the government is doing. After all, if you take a proprietor to court, the proprietor would prefer to take the money he was owing you, pay over the court, and then the case goes nowhere.
Now you raise the issue of majority of these guys running schools are business people.
Yes.
and are not educationists. I know many schools that are run by teachers themselves. Are these teachers taking good care of those teaching in these schools?
No, Mr. Leo. So, if I should say yes, there is a lie. But some of them sometimes give priority to skillful teachers.
The issue is the treatment that is given them. Are they treated well?
Mr. Leo, we should not be biased here. There are still some schools here in Douala, in primary schools, that they pay teachers 135,000 here in Douala. Let's be honest to ourselves. But out of 20 schools, you cannot find such 4 schools. That's the honest truth.
And the schools that pay 120 are headed by educationists.
Yes, for sure. I don't want to make cheap publicity here. No, I don't want to make cheap publicity here, but there are schools.
Mr. Leo, I believe Mr. Ndiwums was making an essential point. The government has a lot of regulations controlling other domains. You can never be a lawyer without studying law. You can never own a law firm without studying law. You can never do medicine without studying medicine. You can never be in the hospital without. But in education, you have defined it. You never run an insurance company without you doing studies on insurance. Find it out. But now education is the lone domain where anybody can become an owner, trainer, and formateur of education if you have the money. We are equally, maybe he's just saying that there might be, to some extent, the need for sanctity within the domain of education. If we should even bring our rules of law that gives the standard for you to come in, open a school, you should be at least a pedagogue. And that we need pedagogues more in running and managing schools than accountants, managers, or whatsoever. That is just what, which equally to some extent will be right. But that does not mean that the rule holds same, that the same treatment goes for other teachers. I have equally seen schools that are run by teachers. Yes, they are doing well. We might not cite them. Remember, we had a friend here at EHS Yaoundé. Yeah, that school is run entirely by the teachers. The owner is a teacher, and everybody there who is a shareholder are teachers. The school is doing well. Some schools equally around the country are paying better. Some pay better than the government. We should be sincere to say that. There are schools that pay better than the government of Cameroon. That we should know it.
I know some in Douala, yeah.
Yes, I said there are some in Douala. They do that excellently well. We will applaud for them. We are talking here of the majority that are not doing the job, and that there is a need to step up. Let's look at the aspect of treating human being, the human person. Because you find some people, I used to be really, I said, when you go, I said, Cameroonian teacher is at the mercy of heaven. How he goes to work and come back home, then leaves the mom. We're in Douala. Pay a teacher 110,000 in Douala. I don't know whether the 110,000 take in 2 weeks. We are all people within Douala. So how do you go to school? How do you come back? How do you feed your home? How do you take off health? How do you do with feeding for 110,000? And you come and stay and shout. I used to tell my students, I have not seen a profession where somebody takes upon himself to shout every day. Learn to shout every day. You will know that shouting is one of the highest part in a man's life that you spend a lot of energy. Then in that same atmosphere, by the end of the academic year, your name has been drafted that you are signing out. They are sending him away. And then the labor inspector has nobody even knows what to do. You don't even know where to go. You need to look for the next school. I have a lot of people of such complaint. Can the government not take this complaint serious? And put some hygiene and sanitation within teaching?
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Leo. God bless Dr. Ako and Mr. Ndiwums. Ruth is writing from Boya. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The entire crew, I'm keenly following this program. What touched me most is the salary of these teachers. Please, if you have a similar program like this, you should invite a teacher earning 40,000 francs and living like in Douala to come and explain how they survive with such salaries. I'm Chinda Charles, writing from Malabo. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm congratulating you guys for a job well done. I agree with Apostle Ambe. Teachers' salaries should be proportional to the school fees. Ngong Franklin is writing from Bonaberry. Private schools nowadays don't teach because they know that they will be paid. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I am Mr. Philip, a private school teacher. It is over 4 years we are being paid a sum of 40,000 francs. Please, the discussion is interesting. The highest paid person is paid 75,000 francs. We have good schools in Kumba, but we are not well paid, okay? Good evening to you, Mr. Leo, and all the panelists in the studio. Your program is quite interesting. I thank panelists for making it clear that the government should enact a law supervise treatment of teachers and salaries increase. Natalie Kum, writing from Boya. Mr. Leo, good evening. So you think Yaoundé to clean the private sector when they are in the real mess? They want to justify why they cannot pay their teachers, like Ivory Coast, okay? Mr. Kum, teachers in private schools are actually suffering. Even in mission schools, proprietors are interested in maximizing profits. Itambi James is writing from Bamenda. Apostle Ambe, how do we make teachers in this sector actually live good light?
I think rather than speaking to people's profession, we should speak to their consciences.
Okay.
If we say business people, a businessman with a good conscience will pay people very well. An educational with a bad conscience will pay people poorly. It has to do with people's conscience. It has not to do with the profession. Because there are people who invest in businesses that they are not trained for. Not everyone that sells tomato in the market is a tomato farmer. Not everyone that sells bedsheet sews bedsheet. Not everyone that sells rice cultivates rice. The issue is, what we should be talking right here is talking about the consciences of the people. People should know very well that you have to treat humans first with respect. Treat humans first with love. Number two, always put yourself in somebody's shoe before you give them the kind of treatment you are giving to them. Peradventure, this person is earning 40,000 in my school and pays a house for 30,000. Has a wife and children. How do they live? When you put yourself in their shoes, you should be able to know how to pay them and the pain they are going through. We are calling on the conscience or the consciences of most Cameroonian proprietors to understand that those people who work in our schools, they are also parents to children. Those people who work in our schools, they also transport themselves to school. Those people who work in our schools equally eat every day to have the energy to teach. This is the reason why teachers also organize extra classes, exploiting children in school because they are unable to meet up their basic needs with their normal salary. So we are here to talk to the conscience of the people. Now let's remove the government, that there is no government. Let's remove that there is no trade union. Let's get to the consciences of all these proprietors who have employed all these people to work in their different institutions. How much do you make per annum? Why don't you say half of your income you make per year should be given to the teachers? Why will you eat 9/10 of what comes in as dividends and you share 1/10 as salary to all the teachers? That's greed. Why don't you go to your conscience and say, okay, if we are making 40 million per year, let me use 20 million to pay the teachers and earn 20 million. You will not be poor. Why don't you say we eat 40% and give the teachers 60%? Why don't you work on a percentage rather than working on salary? If you work on a percentage, it will definitely upgrade the standard of living and definitely the salary for the teachers. Also, a part of the budget should be set aside for teachers' health. Because if a child is sick, the little salary you give him, he buys drugs, what does he get at the end of the month? That is the problem. So let us get to the consciences of the people who are running these institutions.
Good evening to all panelists in the studio. Mr. Liu, I'm a qualified, trained teacher with a KPM, DPS 1, DPS 2, bachelor degree holder of MSc, and currently a PhD student. Mr. Liu, I do part-time in a private school where students pay 180,000 francs and more, yet I'm being paid 12 per period. That is non-recognition of your qualifications, no salary increment, but the proprietress adds fees every year. I really do wonder how some of these private school teachers survive. I will conclude by saying school owners are purely out for business. They think about money much more than the students who have come to acquire knowledge. Please let the government do something about me. Kate is writing from Douala. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire house. I am Lumvera writing from Bamenda. Private teachers are poorly treated, and this is because most have not yet gone to the formal trainings, and so the proprietor tend to take advantage of them, leading to low salaries of 25,000 francs. Mr. Liu, good evening to you in the house. I'm Vera from Bamenda. It's not really easy working with the private sector in Cameroon, but the government needs to show example first, because I've worked with both. When I was working as a PTA teacher in a government school, I was paid 25,000 francs, and now I'm in the private sector. The director started me with 30. Now I'm there for 4 years. Now I'm on 40, okay? This one says, when I see government teachers striking because of their working conditions, I wonder what can be done by people in the private sector. Yaoundé private teachers are in a mess. God bless you for your program. Are very educating. Dictatorship is what is used in ruling the private teachers. Asong, bless writing there. Apostle Ambe, I congratulate your conscience. Mr. Liu, God bless you for this program. I'm a private teacher. I feel the pain, okay? Mr. Liu, I want Apostle Ambe to advance reasons why he thinks Ukrainians who are simply defending ourselves should as well be sanctioned, okay? I thought we are out of that. Good evening, Mr. Kum and Panelists. I think or believe all this boils down to bad governance. For if the state could have good mechanisms to manage every sector, even churches like what is happening now in Rwanda, I think the institutions and their staff will be comfortable and respected. The regime needs overhauling. Okay, Kaka, writing there from South Africa. Greetings to you. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please tell Apostle Ambe to stop using the word Russia want to get back her lost territories because he will never succeed if he's... we are out of this topic. Okay, yes, Sule.
Who says they will get it back?
Sule, we are looking at what to do to better the situation of our private teachers.
No, it just matters, as he said, consciences of teachers. That's
okay.
all.
Yes, you also call on the conscience of
not really consciences. We need real action. The government, sometime in one program we were talking here, I said 32 years after the former labor code was revised, 32 years after labor working conditions have changed, the environment has changed, the economy has changed. We are no longer living within 1,500 francs a bag of cement. Now it is 5,500. Will teachers don't need decent homes? Will they need decent cars? There's a need for the state to intervene and regulate the domain. It's not even, I said there's strike going on now. It's not like asking for some advantages. There's a need to change salary scales of teachers. If prices, inflation has swung more than 110%, salaries too should increase by 110%.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu and the entire panelists. The reason you see so many people supporting Putin is not because he's a good man or great president, but because he is standing up against the West, who has put many nations in sorrow. The West always wants their way, first at the death and sorrow of other nations. Don't matter, Egypt, Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. The West careless, okay, Aden, via Halifax, Canada, okay. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to all the panelists. I highly support Putin because I see him as a liberator. He should liberate the world. You, Souleiman, is writing from Melon. We seemingly are going to touch on this Ukraine stuff again. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Leo, the only thing I can say is that our state has failed in regulating what they were supposed to regulate. Because if a state minister can come out on the state media and say that 36,000 francs is just enough for an average Cameroonian to live with his family, that is the bad example that he is sending to these proprietors. And when a state man says 36, this proprietor will probably say no, 25 will be better. So I think a good example and follow-up must come first from the government before we hold these proprietors accountable.
Okay, so if the state does not do anything, the proprietors should continue exploiting.
Mr. Leo, the state and the proprietors, they are even accomplices. They are working together. We cannot separate the two.
Good evening, Mr. Leo. We should also consider the amount of hours a teacher takes in an institution. Must all teachers come out from a training school? Because I believe some teachers who teach also teach even better than those from the training schools. This is Larry writing from Bafoussam. Good evening to you, Larry. Good evening, Mr. Liu, and to the entire panelists. I have worked as a private school teacher, as a lone geography teacher on a salary of 15,000 francs, of which I pay transport to and from school, aside other contributions with colleagues in school, left with practically little or nothing. I think the government needs to intervene in setting a minimum wage rate for payment of teachers in private sector. Mr. Tifu is writing from Yaoundé. Yes, the situation in Yaoundé is quite disturbing because most of the messages from Yaoundé are tear-provoking. Good evening, Mr. Liu. Please, whenever I hear about financial situations of workers in this country, I feel like crying. You can imagine completing a tertiary education. You get a job as a teacher and you are paid 250,000 francs. The worst are nurses completing 3 to 4 years training, and you are paid 30,000 francs. Imagine how many years will take to have the fees you paid for your training, and what will you save, and how can one assist family with this kind of money? Ijang is writing from Abamenda. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm Eduardo Ruben from Santa, and I must confess the teachers in general, whether government or private, are not really treated well. I thank Apostle Ambe for his wise words and conscience. Proprietors need to really treat your teachers as their own blood and to put themselves in their shoes. Okay, this one says the problem we have in Kumba is our corrupted delegates in our community. The delegate in our society doesn't even do a checkup of how teachers are being paid. It is so discouraging when you hear a private school teacher is paid 40,000 and your colleague earns a 150,000. This is all about bad government. We are not machines. We are humans, and we fall sick, need clothes, and feed ourselves even in a house, which 40,000 francs can't do all this, which make many private teachers unteach the children. This is Samba Janet writing from Yaoundé. Good job to you all in the studio. Niba is writing from Bafoot. Good evening to you, Niba. I am Simeon. No teacher should go to class until their problems are well handled. It's better to correct once and for all. Teachers are supposed to be comfortable. We are not talking about the strike, please. We're talking about the situation of private teachers. Good evening, Mr. Kum Leonard and the entire house. I want to say Cameroon is a country with majority educational ministries which have voluntarily disregarded the place of a teacher in the society, forgetting that where they are was made by the same office of a teacher. Remove a teacher from a nation, even a president has no value. George Bison is writing from Kumba. We're out of time. Thank you, Mr. Sule, for coming.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Mr. Kum. I'm happy, and I think we'll keep the date.
Okay. Thank you too for coming, Apostle Ambe.
Thanks, Mr. Leo. Please don't misquote me. I wasn't asking us to discipline or sanction Ukraine. I was talking something from the background. My co-panelists have understood me properly. God bless you.
Thank you too for coming, Doctor.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Once more, Cameroon, I'm still saying that my heart bleeds in tears anytime the situation of a teacher is brought up in Cameroon. There is the need to give that respect and sanctity within the educational system in Cameroon. One of it is the identity of a teacher. Okay, thank you for coming.
Yeah, Mr. Leo, thank you for the program. May God save the Cameroonian teacher.
Okay, Intong Ivo, thank you for watching. I've gotten your message, and to all of you who are watching the program across the world. Thank you, Desmond, and to you, Eli, for producing the program. Not forgetting you, Tambe Bryant, who is supervising the work we do out there. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.